Deon Jackson became superintendent of the Berkeley County School District in July of 2021. Today, I talk one-on-one with him about how the job is going, COVID, and growth in Berkeley County for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Superintendent Deon Jackson, welcome to the award-winning Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, Quintin. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, you're very welcome. Obviously, you are the new superintendent for Berkeley County Schools, and I know that you were selected as Berkeley County Schools District Superintendent on May 19th of last year and officially assumed the role on July 1st. What is the biggest difference between July and right now when you think of you as superintendent?
Well, Quintin, it's interesting, and I tell this story often. I've been with the district for quite some time, and prior to becoming superintendent, I actually shared a suite with our previous superintendent, Dr. Ingram, and our offices were literally about 15 feet away. And, you know, being so close and working so closely with the superintendent, you're under the impression that, you know just about everything there is to know about being superintendent, particularly in Berkeley County. But there's a lot that occurs within that 15 feet of distance. And so just having the opportunity to sit in the chair and be privy to the additional information and circumstances that exist as far as being the actual superintendent. And so with that, obviously we thought we dodged a bullet last year. At least I thought I dodged a bullet last year by becoming superintendent in the 21-22 school year. We dealt with COVID last year. We thought that we were hopeful that we were past it, and unfortunately we were not. You know, we had Delta in the fall, and then we had Omicron that we're still dealing with now. And so those are two circumstances that were not projected. We did not predict those, and but yet, you know, we had to face those challenges, and our staff, we're doing a great job of addressing those challenges and meeting them head on. It's not always easy, but doing a great job of meeting those challenges head on and dealing with them and doing what's in the best interest of our students and serving our students to the fullest extent.
As a matter of fact, let me ask you, the superintendent, how many positive cases are there in Berkeley County School District right now?
At this particular time, I'm not able to give you an exact number, but what I can tell you is the number of positive cases in Berkeley County School District is significantly lower than it was in the fall. And then it's also significantly lower than it was about two and a half weeks ago when we came back from our winter break. And unfortunately, we had to transition 5 of our schools into a virtual setting for about a week. It was the total number of infected cases, and then also the total number of our instructional staff or adults that were out of the building. It just became unsustainable for those 5 schools, and so we made that transition. We're blessed and fortunate enough to be able to do so and make that transition very smoothly, and be able to serve our students through our one-to-one initiative, in which we were highly prepared going back to even March of 2020, when the pandemic first hit and we received the announcement that we were going to be out of school for a week, and teachers prepared to be out of school for a week, what ultimately ended up being the rest of that school year, and then for some students, 18 months. But we were prepared for that through our one-to-one initiative. All of our students, they do have devices. We prefer Chromebooks. And so we were a part of the State Department of Education's e-learning pilot. And so we were granted permission to do e-learning days, which were originally for weather makeup days. We had already prepared for that. And so we were uniquely positioned to successfully make that transition. And so when we are required to make that transition now, our teachers they've received professional development. Our students are accustomed to navigating the Google Classroom and accessing their assignments and corresponding with teachers as well. So we're uniquely positioned to do that. It's not the desired methodology, but we are able to make that transition and do it successfully.
Should Berkeley County have went virtual, that is, the week coming back from the holiday break?
What was that?
Should Berkeley County have went virtual the week coming back from the holiday break?
Well, that's a good question. and none of us can see the future. But if you take a look at the way that we handled the situation, and you look at the areas in which the schools in which were affected, one of the things you have to take into consideration when making these types of decisions is just the sheer volume, the gravity of the situation that you're dealing with, but the volume of our district. So we're extremely vast and diverse. We're 1,221 square miles or 1,223 square miles. We're 47 schools, 37,000 students, and quite frankly, the COVID has not impacted the entire district in the same way. And so, if you look at the different areas, if you look at the different areas of our district, they've been impacted differently. And so that's why when I mentioned earlier, we transitioned 5 schools. We only transitioned 5 of the 47 schools. And so to go back to your original question, should we have gone virtual? Well, hindsight is always 2020. We can always Monday morning quarterback it, but it did not impact all 47 schools in the same way. If it impacted all 47 schools and we were forced to transition all 47 to a virtual setting, I would probably agree with you. The fact that we were only required to transition 5 of our schools, and we were able to, it was difficult, but we were able to withstand it and support the additional schools and do so successfully. I think we made the right decision.
How many of those other schools should have transferred to virtual?
What was that?
How many of the other schools should have transferred to virtual besides the 5 that you just mentioned?
The 5 schools that transitioned to virtual were the 5 schools that should have transitioned to virtual. There's a set of, metrics that you can say that we consider when making that transition. It's the total number of student infections, infection rate of students, total number of students out, and then you take a look at the number of adults that are out of the building and determine if they can operate. And so when you take all of those factors into consideration, the 5 schools that transitioned were the 5 schools that met that criteria.
Now, today, Superintendent, how many classes are actually in quarantine?
How many total classes?
Yes, sir.
Unfortunately, Quintin, I don't have that number for you at this point in time. But we can, I can grab that for you. But we keep a live COVID tracker on our website. We can keep track with all of the COVID cases by school and a district total as well.
Now, what is that quarantine protocol for your employees and the students?
We are actually required to adhere to it's a DHEC recommendation or DHEC guidelines, which have been adopted by the State Department of Education, and it's included in I believe it's called the student exclusion document. And so we have chosen to adopt the 5-day quarantine. And so if you are a close contact or if you test positive, your testing day is actually day 0. And then there's 5 days from there. If your symptoms have improved and you no longer have a fever, you've been fever free for 24 hours, then you're eligible to return back to your workplace setting or your school environment. For students, if students have been declared a close contact, it is the same 5-day period. They're eligible to return so long as they're asymptomatic. They're not displaying any symptoms. DHEC has authorized our employees, basically reclassifying them as essential to the operations of the school. And so if they're exposed to COVID or identified as a close contact, they're eligible to return to work so long as they wear a mask and they're asymptomatic. And so that's that's not a Berkeley County School District policy or procedure. That's a DHEC guideline which has been adopted by the State Department of Education.
Now, how many staff members are actually up with COVID right now?
Unfortunately, I don't have those detailed numbers for you at this particular point in time. But I believe that information can also be found on our tracker.
Now, how many substitute teachers do you actually have on hand right now, Superintendent?
Well, we work through Kelly Services.
Okay.
So we work through Kelly Services. There was a time where we hired and we staffed our own substitutes. And that's been some time ago. I feel like the old guy now. One time I was the young guy on the block. Now I'm the not so young guy on the block. But I do recall where a time where we actually employed our own substitutes, and so we actually go through Kelly Services now. The exact number of subs that we have on hand, that's the number of subs that are available through Kelly Services. I mean, and I know as of today, we're at an 88% fill rate. And so out of all of the substitutes that were requested for teacher absences, we filled 88% of those requests through the assistance of Kelly Services. One of the things that we had to do, because situation dictates, and so one of the things that we had to do about 2 weeks ago was our board agreed with the administration that we needed to increase the rate of compensation for our substitutes. And what we saw, one of our neighboring districts, they upped the ante to increase their fill rate, make it more attractive, make it more appealing for folks to go and substitute. And so we met it. We had to up our ante as well, and so we increased our rate of pay. And so we saw our fill rate improve from 54%, which is what it was the week we came back from winter break, and now, as I just said, it's 88%. And so it's been consistently 80% once that change was made, and today it's 88%. We're seeing our schools are seeing substitutes that they haven't seen in months. We're also attracting folks that were at home or retired, and they were just there, and now it's more appealing for them to become substitutes. And so we're seeing an increase in our sub pool. And so I don't know if I don't think it's having a negative impact on any neighboring districts. I think there are individuals that live in Berkeley County that now see it as attractive, and they're coming out to provide that assistance as well.
Now, the teacher absences, how many are those?
Pardon?
How many of the teacher absences are those in Berkeley County?
Again, I don't have an exact number, but we do have over 2,500 teachers. Wow. And so you can imagine that on any given day, to have 100 teachers out may not be uncommon, not with 2,500 teachers.
Now, how many staff openings are there within the school district system?
Our staff openings, all of our employment opportunities can be found on our website under our human resources page. Go to employment opportunities, and so there are a significant number that are there. A large number are in our classified staff, our support staff. There's a large number there, and you may see if there are any teachers that are seeking employment. You may see employment opportunities for certified teachers as well. And so what we've started doing is we're advertising now for the 22-23 school year as well. And so all of those vacancies or employment opportunities that you see may not be for this year. We're also seeking employees or potential employees for next year as well.
Now, how many certified teachers do you want for next year?
That's oddly enough, I was just having a conversation with our human resources officer, and so we're in the process of doing our enrollment projections for next year. And our enrollment projections actually determine the number of additional allocations that we need, or the number of additional teacher positions that we need. But at this particular point in time, we feel very comfortable seeking 60 additional allocations or 60 additional teaching positions for the 22-23 school year. It's quite possible that that number will increase significantly, maybe adding an additional 30 to 40 teaching positions in anticipation of increased enrollment next year. We saw a slight decline in enrollment last year. We attribute that to COVID. There were some families that sought different educational opportunities for their children. And so we saw some of the students and some of the families opt for a homeschool option. We saw some of the families opt for a virtual school option, and some opted for a private school option. But nonetheless, we typically see anywhere between a 700 to 1,000 student increase in a given year. And last year we saw a 500 student decrease. Some of that may have been kindergarten students that are not required to. Kindergarten is actually not legally required, and so some of the families may have opted not to enroll their children in kindergarten. But this year we saw a significant increase. We saw a significant increase of about 1,200 students this year. So from last year to this year, our district grew by 1,200 students, and we anticipate that same trend to continue next year, and the next year, and next year.
And I only have like 5 minutes left with you, but let me ask you, where exactly did the numbers of students grow in what particular area of the county?
So we do have some areas of high growth. My office is actually in one of those. Monk's Corner has become not so much a hotbed of growth, but there's a lot of residential growth that's taken place in this area. In fact, one of our schools that we recently built, Foxbank Elementary School, is about 5 years old. And Foxbank Elementary School has exceeded their capacity. And so and that happened very, very quickly. There's just so much growth that's taken place. And so that's one area. The other areas, obviously, our Nexton, our Cane Bay, and our Carnes Crossroads area, that Northwest corridor, as we call it, that's really a hotbed for growth in this area. Growth is good. Growth is also challenging. And so that's an area as well. And we're also taking a look at the Clements Ferry corridor as well. And so they're widening Clements Ferry. Everyone's anticipating it. There's a large mega development that's over there, the Point Hope, large mega development. They're slated for at least 10,000 residential units. At this point, I think they're at a couple hundred. And so that area is going to see exponential growth as well. And so we're trying to prepare for that and find efficient ways to make sure that we can support and serve the students of Berkeley County.
Now, and I just talked to newly Charleston City Councilman Boyd Gregg about that as well. But let me ask you, how does the Berkeley County School District keep up with this growth, with smart growth?
And so one of the things that we've done recently, and this hadn't always been the case, but one of the things we've done recently was make sure that we have relationships with our government officials, make sure we have relationships with the county government and their planning department, and also the different municipalities within Berkeley County that have planning departments. One of the things that we figured out in hindsight was that some of the developments were being planned and or approved, and the school district may have been the last ones to know. And so that was not anything recent. That was years and years ago. But we all mutually agree that that's not the best strategy. The best strategy is for everyone to have knowledge of that information, knowledge of those plans, and be able to make the appropriate adjustments in order to serve our students. And so those relationships are formed. Berkeley County School District, we have a seat at the table. We're able to provide our comments, express our concerns, and in some cases even express our support, and see how we can work hand in hand with the municipalities, with the county government, but also with developers that are coming in or that have these proposals. And so we can express our needs, and we can see how we can best work collaboratively to help address those needs.
What do you want from the developers when they come into Berkeley County?
What do I want from developers when they come into Berkeley County?
As far as the school district.
We need a significant level of support. And honestly, that answer depends on what size or what type of development we're talking about. Some of these mega developments, if you will, I hear or see some of the concerns or complaints expressed by our residents, our citizens sometimes, and they're concerned about these mega developments. But we always need school sites, right? We always need school sites. We work with demographers to figure out if we have a 10,000 unit development, how many students will it yield over time? And so we're able to figure those things out. based on the number of students, how many schools are projected that we will need. And so based on that, if there's some sort of way we can work together collaboratively to identify school sites to help growth pay for growth or help growth support the growth, that's the type of support, that's the type of collaboration that we're looking for.
And what school sites are you looking at right now?
We're looking at school sites. So actually, we have a school under construction. We have a school under construction. It's in the Carnes Crossroads development. It's unnamed at this particular point in time. So for lack of a name, we'll just refer to it as the Carnes K-8 school. And so it's a kindergarten through 8th grade school, and it will support the growth that's in the Carnes area, but also along that 17A 176 corridor. And so in that little area there, it's going to support. And so as far as school sites that we're looking for to support growth in those areas, the Carnes School is scheduled to be complete in 2023. And so ribbon cutting, summer, August 2023, open the doors and we'll welcome students.
And one last question for you, Superintendent. How many nurses shortages are there currently?
I don't have that number specifically, but I do know that we're always looking for nurses. I'm actually really proud of Berkeley County School District. I have an opportunity to meet with colleagues from around the state, and in some cases, colleagues from around the nation. That's one of the things that this pandemic has done. It's really forced us to use the tools that we have at our disposal. And so now many of us have networks all across the country, and we're able to discuss, and we're able to problem solve and have different perspectives from different regions of the country. But going back to your question, we're one of the few districts that in every school, we have at least one nurse serving the students of that school. And I know that was a goal of the State Department of Education. I know that was a goal of the governor's office, but we're there. In fact, we're there, and in some cases, we have multiple nurses at each school based on the number of students and also based on the caseload of the individual schools. And so when we have a vacancy, more than likely it's not to have a single nurse at a school. More than likely it's to add an additional nurse at a school. And so we have that. We have at least one full-time nurse at each school. In some cases we have two. And then we also have, I believe there are 4 full-time, what we call floaters. And so we're able to, almost like our substitute pool, if you will. And so we have nurses that are out. Those floaters are able to go and sub in for a day or a week based on the need of that particular school, based on the needs of the district.
And how many daily COVID tests at select locations are given within your school district?
That varies. That varies, but I'll tell you what, we're offering those COVID tests every day. And we started offering morning COVID tests for our employees every morning. Our employees are dedicated, but at the same time, they're cautious, and they're respectful, and they're responsible, and they don't want to get anyone sick, right? And so if they thought they had symptoms, or if they came in close contact with someone, they wanted to get a test before they just reported to work. And so we saw a significant number of our employees take advantage of that opportunity. And our folks are so dedicated, they would even come up on Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening to test our employees to make sure that they're good to go for Monday morning. But going back to your question, we saw a significant decrease in the number of tests that were being requested. And that may be attributed to the fact that home tests have now become more available to our families. And so home tests have become more available. Home tests are now acceptable, being that they're endorsed by the federal government and the State Department of Education. They've become more available and they're acceptable now. And so as long as the family signs the attestation form, we accept the results of those home tests. And so subsequently, we saw a decline in the demand for our on-site testing. And so we kind of scaled back. And so instead of Monday through Friday, and the weekend we are going Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And so we test anywhere at our sites, anywhere between 20 and 30 people per day.
Wow. And I want to get you back, hopefully, into some to talk about the strategic plan for Berkeley County School Districts. But Superintendent Deon Jackson, thank you for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, Quintin. Thank you for having me. And I look forward to coming back. We have a lot to talk about here in Berkeley County.
Yes, indeed. Absolutely. Anytime.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome.